Thank you. Thank you. This is awesome. Thank you all. Oh my gosh, it is great to be with you. I saw that video of Nancy Pelosi and I'm fired up. Charlie, I want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to be with these great young Americans. I want to thank you all for being here. You know, you all advocate for our republic, for liberty and freedom. You all get it, right? If we ain't on offense, we're getting crushed. And we're going to be on offense. Look, I want to start with just a few basic facts that everybody needs to take on board. I had a chance to meet with a bunch of you here today. There's been a lot of fun. There's a lot going on in the world that's serious. I want to spend a few minutes talking about that, but we're going to have fun walking through it because what you all are doing here matters. I want you all to give yourself a massive round of applause for all the great work you've done. Thank you for being so kind to me. Look, I'll be honest with you. I have to say this. I've had people say, Mike, you must be happy that you're not in office. A lot of pressure, all the burden of traveling the world representing of America. I have to tell you, this 180 days has been miserable. Miserable to watch. I wish only that I was still there doing the good work on behalf of each and every one of you. You know, Charlie was talking about the media earlier, and I've heard lots of folks talk about that. The New York Times said I was the worst Secretary of State in the history of the United States of America. It's okay. It was a fellow named Thomas Friedman. He's a fool. This is the same newspaper that covered up Stalin's crimes. When the Holocaust took place and 6 million were killed, the New York Times didn't talk about that. The New York Times worships at the feet of the Chinese Communist Party too, so it didn't bother me a bit. I have to tell you too, it was a couple days later, the Washington Post said the same thing. The big headline, 16 points or 18 points, said Mike Pompeo, worst Secretary of State in history. And my son was great because the second time he thought, well, Dad's pretty tough, but you know, I should give him a call. And so he called me and said, Dad, I was looking this up. There's this fellow named Elihu Washburn, and he was the Secretary of State for just 11 days. Surely you're better than he was. So we started a club called We're Number 2. You all get this, and you all are giving voice to something that's really important. And I'm going to talk about the challenges that we triumphed over in the world, but nothing frightens me like what's happening here at home. The things that are happening in our universities and schools, you all see it up close. The things that's happening in our communities, the fact that folks refuse to defend our law enforcement when they're simply doing amazing work to keep you and I safe. Remember this, you all know it, but never forget, it's about people, not government. It's about each of you. And by the way, the Democrat Party thinks that government is our master. Remind them that the party of Lincoln never believed in masters. And as God is my witness, we never will. So I talked about it being tough. We have a president who's looking for corners in the Oval Office. Right? The response to a media question can't be, come on, man. We never did that. We took you seriously. We took America seriously, and we worked tirelessly to defend it. And I was talking about this big media. It's a shell game that they play. The big media cartel transfers wealth from those of us that are here today to the elites and to the Chinese Communist Party, destroys jobs all across America. And that's frankly too many, and even my party, the Republican Party, had done that for too long. For decades, we just cozied up to the Chinese Communist Party, trading a bowl of porridge for the freedom of people all across the world. President Trump came in and hired me to just tell him, no way, man, not gonna happen. We said no when they wanted to steal American manufacturing jobs. That's what I did before I lost my mind and ran for Congress. I ran a manufacturing company in Kansas. We said, you're not going to steal our industries, you're not going to steal our intellectual property, you're not going to control our supply chains for medical goods and technology. And we said, I love you too. love you too. When they were running a spy out, I know a little bit about this. I was a CIA director. When they ran a supply chain, when they ran a spy ring in our consulate in Houston where they were supposed to be diplomats, we told them to get the heck out of America. We weren't going to let this happen. And when it came to the Wuhan virus, we were called racist, but it turns out we were right. It turns out we were not only right about where this virus came from, that it escaped from a Chinese laboratory in Wuhan, but we were right about what the Chinese Communist Party killing millions of people all across the world. They knew they had a virus. They knew it was contagious. They knew it was lethal. And they sent people all across the world to infect others. This is one of the great tragedies of our times, and we must hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for this great crime. I had this great gig. The president called me in January and said, Mike, there's this article. It's in the Washington Post. It says you were my most loyal cabinet member. And I said, President Trump, just so you know, sir, that was not intended as a compliment. And he said, I know, that's why I love you. And we worked tirelessly. I'm so proud of the work that we did. Don't forget, when we came into office, there were people being held in cages in Syria and being burned alive, and we destroyed the caliphate. Don't forget that the previous administration had given the mullahs in Iran billions of dollars, and we told them, no way, that's not going to happen. We got out of the nuclear deal and denied them the money to inflict terror all around the world. And I know there's a lot of veterans in the audience today, too. There was a man. Thank you all for your service. It was awesome. I met a Navy guy out back, and he told me that the Army just couldn't get it done, and I told him the cavalry was here coming today. It was great to be part of it. Look, I'm proud. There was this fellow in Iran. His name was Qasem Soleimani. He was threatening Americans again, and President Trump said, make it go away, and we did. For many, many years, no president had ever done the right thing by the people of Israel. We defended them tirelessly. We understood that they had the right to defend themselves. Not only did the president make what was the courageous decision to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, the rightful homeland of the Jewish people, but we made unambiguously clear that if Hamas fired rockets on our watch, we were going to be with the Israelis. And we made clear that Israel is not an occupying force. They're a great democratic Jewish nation. There was a lot of work to do. There was lots to clean up. President Obama had traveled the world apologizing on behalf of America. We weren't about to do that. President Obama told us that when we came into office, our biggest challenge would be North Korea. The president promptly sent me to meet with Chairman Kim. I've now spent more time with him than even Dennis Rodman. I had the enormous privilege to go there and to bring home 3 Americans that had been held hostage by the North Koreans. It was amazing. The president talked about Little Rocket Man, but we worked tirelessly to ensure that we didn't end up in a war with North Korea. We used our diplomatic tools. On my final trip to meet him before the summit that was held in Hanoi, I had been talking with him previously. He had told me that he was a Los Angeles Lakers fan. I had been a Lakers fan growing up as well. And so when I went on that trip, I took him 2 Kobe Bryant jerseys, an 8 and a 24. And I must tell you that I think the spirit of Kobe Bryant has kept the enmity of the North Koreans at bay. They haven't launched a single missile of long range. They haven't conducted a single nuclear test. And the diplomacy, the deterrence, the strength that President Trump and our team showed have led us to be in a better place. And I pray that this administration doesn't upset that very difficult and challenging relationship. You know, it was great to serve as America's Secretary of State. I traveled the world. People wanted to see me not because they wanted to see Mike, but because they wanted to see the American Secretary of State. I got to see great freedom-loving people all across the world. I took a trip to Senegal and to Angola and to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, difficult places, but I saw young people like you wanting to become entrepreneurs, to figure out how to grow their business, to make life better for themselves and for their family and for people in their country. And it reminded me of you all. It reminded me, frankly, of my time when I was a young lieutenant. My first assignment was in Germany. I patrolled what was the then East German border. It was a great experience for me. It was formative. I saw communism up close. I saw these East German thugs with their weapons, not pointed at me, but pointed inside the country to keep their own people in. And I left. I left in October of 1989, and less than 2 weeks later, the fence came down all along that border. And one thing, so I called my buddies, my fellow cavalry officers, and said, tell me what's going on. And they said, it's amazing. Huge traffic flowing all across the border, and it is going one way. Every vehicle driving towards freedom, not tyranny. It's what you all are here for today. Look, we get it. The antidote to the problems with freedom isn't a bigger federal government, it's a smaller one. You know, the COVID-19 effort that the Biden administration has put forward, as much as half of that money hasn't gotten to its intended recipients. If any of you was running a small business and did that, you'd be fired in a nanosecond. This is government at its worst. And those of us who believe in freedom and free enterprise need to make sure that our government is small and as effective as we can make it. I saw it up close. I saw the president talked about the deep state. I saw a bureaucracy that shares a set of views fundamentally different than the ones you all hold. And frankly, I saw it from elected leaders as well. They like the deep state because it allows them to accumulate unaccountable wealth. You know, there's a fellow named Eric Swalwell, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. I lived those first 2 years of the Russia hoax where he never missed an opportunity to say that President Trump was somehow compromised. Well, he's an expert on that. What he did in compromising America with that Chinese spy speaks volumes about the way the left cares not a whit for freedom and our security. And don't forget, it was Senator Feinstein in California, the state I grew up in, who had a Chinese driver. If any of you run into her out there in California, I met some of you, and she's hired a new driver. Make sure that driver's son isn't named Vladimir, would you please? She's clearly not making sure that our interests are at heart. Now, I'm counting on you, not tomorrow. I've heard some of you talk about you being the next generation. I believe, indeed, you are the now generation. It is our time. It is your time. There is not a moment to delay, but I know it's hard. I know it's on your campuses. My son is 30 years old. He sees it even in the workplace he was in. It's not Smith, it's Pompeo. Everybody knows who he is. He sees the woke left attack him for his values and his faith in Christ. But there is not a moment to discount these threats. You know, I watched a few weeks ago when the Russians attacked one of our pipelines. It wasn't long after President Biden had attacked one of our pipelines. By shutting down the Keystone operation, the Russians shut down another set. They don't get that these were developed by hardworking people all across America, people like the folks in my home state of Kansas who simply get up every morning, go to work, and take care of business for themselves and their family and their community. You know, too, you hear this on your campuses, our opposition speaks endlessly of climate change, but they rarely talk about the truly important environmental issues, the preservation of our wild horses sold to slaughter, our wetlands the issues our farmers across America all face. These are the things that will preserve our great environment for the decades to come. And then they go work with the Chinese Communist Party. In China, 22 of the largest 25 urban city emitters are sitting inside of their country, and the United States government today wants to shut down our economy. It'll have no impact, it'll do no good, except it will make them feel better at their gatherings. Look, the nature of these lies is all the same direction. It's in the direction of trying to control. It's the direction of trying to make sure that big government can be in every facet of our lives. It's the same for the big media cartel. These are, of course, issues at home. I spent the last 4 years working on issues abroad, but they're connected in deep and important ways. I never lost sight when I traveled America, talking about America first, that what I was doing was on behalf of each and every one of you. And you should know President Trump never let me forget that either. He reminded me that if we got it wrong, that it would be Americans who would suffer. And so I worked tirelessly to make sure that that day, that hour never came. I am counting on you to be part of that continued effort. Look, I talked about it having been difficult. It's difficult when we had figured out our southern border. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy, and we had solved this. We had deterred people from wanting to make that perilous trek, and you see what's happening even today on television. You see the horrors that are being foisted upon these people who are being trafficked across our borders. Now over 1 million illegal immigrants. It was done because Trump and Pompeo had made it work, and they are just vindictive and wanted to undo it. It's bad for America. We know too that each person must be respected. This administration is not following along that path. We were the most pro-life administration in the history of the United States of America. Thank you. You know, the Secretary of State has a unique role in that. I control a big budget that goes to foreign governments and decide how they will spend it. We provide grant money, and we made sure that not a single dollar that came from any one of you or any of your parents went to fund an abortion anywhere in the world at any time. So get out there and have faith. My son, if he were here today, would tell you, Dad tirelessly said, work hard, keep your faith, and tell the truth. If we'll do those three things, America will be an enormous success. I describe myself as an unapologetic American. I believe deeply that we live in the most exceptional nation of the world. And having traveled to almost 100 countries in my time in service of the administration, I can tell you that that is truer today than it was yesterday. But it is not for the faint of heart, and it won't continue to be that if we don't continue to do the good work that you all have done. And when you're surrounded by those who are woke, I'd suggest a couple ideas. People say, what can I do? Ask them if they believe everything that their parents say. Ask that woke person if they believe everything that their teachers say. I hope they'll answer no to both. But remind them, if they're relying on some bureaucrat who doesn't give a darn or doesn't even know if they're alive or dead, you can't possibly believe everything that they say. Challenge, think, believe what your own eyes tell you, and America will continue to be that great and exceptional nation. Don't forget, too, when they try to cast you as racist, they did that when I said the Wuhan virus came from the lab. They did it when I worked on freedom for people in places like Cuba and Iran. Remember, conservatives belong to the party of Lincoln, not the party of the Confederacy. You can watch, you all live it, you can see it. They are trying to divide, they are trying to segregate us. Don't let that happen for a second. We believe in the equality of every human being, and we want every human being to have the right to earn everything they get from living up to their own human potential provided to them by the Lord. Never walk away from that. Look, I will tell you what America needs from you all. First, it's to be fearless. That is not easy every day, but ignore the noise. Do what you know is right. When you do that, when you ignore the noise and head on that North Star, you will make a difference in the world. Your principles aren't just for people that look like you. They're for each and every one of us. The ability to make choices matters. This is what the hallmark of freedom. We get to choose the path that our lives will go down and those of our family. It's the greatest gift that we can give to each other, is to help others have the freedom to make their own decisions for themselves. Not only does the Constitution talk about it, so does our Bible. I want to close with two final thoughts. America is a rambunctious place. We've always had challenges. I think the challenges facing our republic are as serious at any time in my life. But I've also seen that America is rising up, that we're at the front end of a revival. I've had this enormous blessing these last 180 days to travel around the country. I was in Missouri the day before yesterday at a farm. Yeah, go Missouri. I was at a farm day before yesterday in southwest Missouri. It was pouring rain. There were 500 people who came out to see me and former Attorney General Ashcroft talk about the greatness of our nation. People are on fire because they see their fundamental rights being taken away. I want you to make sure that every day you're reminded that you are blessed to be an American and to work tirelessly to preserve that on behalf of each and every one of us. I have one last ask from each of you. I've created an organization to help me travel. It's called CAVPAC. It stands for Championing American Values, but the CAV is a nod to my time as a young soldier when I was in the cavalry. The cavalry does exactly what you all are doing. Its first mission is to sound the alarm when there's trouble. And there's trouble in the White House today. It sounds the alarm when there's trouble, and then it rides to the sound of the gun. Each of you will be a part of making sure that we confront this in a serious way. When I was the CIA director, there was a fellow named Brian who was my chief of staff. He helped me make my way through the CIA. And we were trying to figure out who was working on our team and who just might not have been. And it became shorthand. I asked him about someone, and he said, "That guy's a pipe hitter." He meant by that person was fearless, that they'd work tirelessly, that they would grind away at the problem until that problem was solved. And then I'd ask him about someone, he'd say, "Nope, that guy's not a pipe hitter." Or he'd say, "She's working hard on behalf of America." Get out there and get after it. I know you will. You know, we saw the pictures. We saw those pictures who want to take this freedom away from each and every one of you. As I see your smiles, as I see your hard work, as I see people who have come here with their children, I can see your dedication. I can see your commitment. Know that I'm going to be there right alongside you every day. Every day, certainly up and through November of next year when we take the gavel away from Nancy Pelosi one more time. May God bless you. May God bless these United States of America. And may God bless each and every one of you for what you do. Thank you all so much. God bless you. Thank you.